The coffee was still hot when the screens went white. Admiral Sarah Chun sat in her office at the Pentagon, reading reports about the new mining colony on Europa. She liked her morning quiet time before the chaos of running Earth's space defense began. But today would be different. Every screen in the building flickered at the same moment. Then they all showed the same thing. A figure appeared on the displays. It was tall, much taller than any human. Its skin looked like crystal that bent light into rainbow colors. When it spoke, the walls shook. "I am Executor Vex Thalen of the Hegemony Council," the being said. Its voice came through in perfect English, though Chun knew it was probably speaking to everyone on Earth in their own language. "Your species has been observed. Your expansion beyond this system violates Galactic Statute 847C. Chun set down her coffee cup. Her hands were steady, but her heart was racing. This was first contact, but it didn't feel like the peaceful meeting humanity had always imagined. You have 72 of your rotations to cease all extraplanetary activities and surrender your vessels, the alien continued. Compliance ensures preservation. Defiance ensures extinction. A transmission ended. The screens went back to normal. But nothing would ever be normal again. Within minutes, Chun's secure phone was ringing. President Elena Vasquez was on the line from Washington. "Sarah, please tell me you saw that too, and I'm not having a breakdown." "I saw it, Madam President," Chun replied. She was already pulling up satellite feeds on her computer. "And we have bigger problems," the satellites showed them. Massive ships were appearing all over the solar system. They had been invisible before, hidden by some kind of technology humans didn't understand. Now they hung in space like giant metal sharks, each one bigger than the largest space station humanity had ever built. Dr. Marcus Webb burst into Chun's office without knocking. The xenobiologist looked pale and excited at the same time. "Did you see the energy readings from those ships?" he asked, waving a tablet full of data. "They're using power sources we can't even begin to understand. This technology is centuries ahead of ours." General Hassan al-Rashid was right behind Webb. The military strategist had been studying the alien fleet positions on his own tablet. "They're not in attack formation," he said quietly. "Look at how they're positioned. These are defensive patterns." Chun studied the tactical display al-Rashid showed her. The alien ships were spread out around key human installations, but they weren't pointing weapons at Earth. They were watching the approaches to the solar system. "They're afraid of something," al-Rashid continued. "No species with this kind of technology would need this much firepower to wipe us out. They could have done it already if that's what they wanted." The next few hours were chaos. Every government on Earth was trying to figure out what to do. The United Nations called an emergency session. Military leaders argued about whether to fight or surrender. Scientists scrambled to analyze every piece of data they could gather about the alien ships, but the people in space had already made their choice. Administrator Liu Xiang was in charge of the mining operations on Mars. When the evacuation order came from Earth, she looked around at the 3,000 people under her command. Miners, engineers, scientists, families who had made Mars their home. They had built something here with their own hands. "Pack it up," they say, Liu told her deputy, a tough engineer named Rodriguez. "Leave everything we've worked for and run back to Earth with our tails between our legs." Rodriguez spat into the red dirt. "My kids were born here. This is their home too." The vote wasn't even close. Out of 3,000 people, only 47 wanted to evacuate. The rest decided to stay and face whatever was coming. Similar scenes played out across human space. The researchers on Titan voted to stay. The miners in the asteroid belt barricaded themselves in their facilities. The crew of the Deep Space Research Station near Alpha Centauri sent a message back to Earth that made Chun smile despite everything. We came out here to explore the unknown. Well, now the unknown has come to us. Captain James Sullivan was getting his ship ready at the orbital shipyard above Earth. The Defiance was supposed to be a research vessel, but the engineers were working around the clock to mount whatever weapons they could find. Mining lasers, missile pods stripped from old satellites, even some experimental railguns that had never been tested in combat. This is insane, his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park, said as she watched the weapons installation. We're going up against ships that could probably destroy Earth with one shot. Sullivan checked the latest reports from the alien fleet. Still holding position, still waiting. Maybe, he said, but they haven't done it yet. That means something. President Vasquez stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the Great Hall. The alien ultimatum had done something that decades of diplomacy couldn't manage. It had united humanity completely. My fellow humans, she began, and the phrase felt different now that they knew they weren't alone in the universe. For 200 years, we have reached for the stars. Not as conquerors, but as explorers. We have built, not destroyed. We have learned, not imposed. We have made mistakes, yes, but we have tried to be better. She paused, looking out at the faces before her. Leaders who had been enemies just days ago now sat side by side, united by a common threat. These aliens tell us that our expansion into space is a crime, that our desire to grow and explore and build new homes for our children violates their laws. Laws we never agreed to follow. Laws made by beings who never asked us what we wanted. The hall was completely silent. Even the translators had stopped their whispered conversations. If reaching for the stars is our crime, then we embrace it gladly, Vasquez continued. If building new worlds for our children violates their statutes, then we are proud lawbreakers. If refusing to kneel before those who would cage us makes use criminals in their eyes, then we are criminals. She straightened, and her voice carried to every corner of the hall and every human settlement in space. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not surrender our ships. We will not kneel. The vote was unanimous. Every nation, every colony, every human outpost voted the same way. Earth would not surrender. Executor Vexthalen received the human response aboard his flagship at the edge of the solar system. The crystalline being studied the transmission with growing confusion. In all his centuries of service to the hegemony, he had never encountered a species that refused the ultimatum. Fear always won in the end. Self-preservation was supposed to be universal. They choose extinction? His tactical officer asked. The younger hegemony warrior seemed genuinely puzzled. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are barely capable of interplanetary flight. Do they not understand what we can do to them? Vexthalen watched the human broadcasts that his intelligence team had intercepted. Families saying goodbye to loved ones on Earth. Miners singing old songs as they prepared their makeshift defenses. Children drawing pictures of spaceships to send to their parents in the colonies. They understand, he said finally. That's what makes this interesting. The countdown continued. 60 hours left in the human ultimatum. 59, 58. But something had changed in those first 12 hours. The humans weren't running. They weren't begging. They were preparing for war with an enthusiasm that disturbed the alien observers. Mining equipment was being converted into weapons. Civilian ships were being fitted with improvised armor. The humans were using their industrial capacity not to build evacuation transports, but to prepare for battle. Vexthalen opened a secure channel to the Hegemony Council on the far side of the galaxy. A transmission would take days to reach them, but they needed to know. The humans have refused surrender, he reported. They are preparing to resist with whatever resources they have. Request guidance on how to proceed. He paused, watching. Human ships moved between their colonies in what looked like random patterns, but was actually a complex dance of preparation and positioning. Also request clarification on rules of engagement. These humans fight differently than any species in our records. They show no fear of death and seem to find joy in impossible odds. As the alien fleet held its positions and the countdown continued, both species prepared for something neither had expected. The hegemony had come to deliver a simple ultimatum to a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves facing warriors who sang while they worked and smiled while they prepared to die that the war nobody wanted was about to begin. But the humans had already won something important in those first crucial hours. They had chosen who they wanted to be when everything was on the line. They had looked at extinction and chosen defiance. The galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The timer hit 0 at exactly noon Earth time. President Vasquez was in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors and screens showing human settlements across the solar system. Admiral Chun watched from the Pentagon. General Al-Rashid stood ready at the Orbital Defense Command Center. Everyone held their breath. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The alien ships hung in space like sleeping giants. Then Executor Vex Thalen's voice came through every communication system. In human space, your time has expired, the crystalline being announced. You have chosen extinction. We will begin with your furthest colonies to demonstrate our resolve. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. The first target was New Shanghai, the largest mining colony on Mars. 3 alien ships moved toward the red planet with frightening grace. Their hulls gleamed in the dim sunlight as they positioned themselves above the domed city that housed 15,000 humans. Administrator Liu Xiang stood in the colony's command center, watching the alien ships through the observation dome. Her people were at their stations, calm and ready. They had spent the last 3 days preparing for this moment. All mining teams, are you ready? Liu spoke into her communicator. Sector 7 ready, came the first reply. Sector 12 ready. Sector 5 ready. One by one, all 23 mining sectors reported in. The miners had worked without sleep to modify their equipment. The massive lasers they used to cut through rock and metal had been repositioned and linked together in a network that covered the entire colony. The lead alien ship powered up its weapons. Energy readings spiked to something that could turn mountains into vapor prepared to fire. Liu watched the displays and waited for the perfect moment. Now, she said quietly. 23 mining lasers fired at once, but they didn't aim at the alien ships. Instead, they created a web of intersecting light beams in the space above the colony. The powerful lasers formed a barrier of pure energy that no one had ever tried before. When the alien weapon fired, something impossible happened. The energy beam hit the laser web and scattered. Parts of it bounced back toward the alien ship. Other parts spread out harmlessly into space. The colony's shields, hastily built from mining equipment, had actually worked. The alien ship's hull cracked where its own reflected weapon hit it. Atmosphere vented into space. For the first time in 1,000 years, a hegemony vessel had been damaged by a primitive species. Did you see that? Rodriguez shouted from his position at the laser controls. We hurt them. But Liu was already planning the next move. All teams, focus fire on the damaged ship. Let's see how much more damage we can do. The mining lasers adjusted their aim and fired directly at the alien vessel. The beams that could cut through solid rock found weak points in the cracked hull. More atmosphere escaped. The alien ship began to drift, its engines failing. The other 2 hegemony ships backed away from the colony, their crews apparently shocked by what had just happened. On his flagship, Executor Vex Thalen watched the tactical reports with growing alarm. "How is this possible?" his tactical officer asked. "Our weapons are designed to penetrate any known defense." Vex Thalen studied the human laser configuration. "They're not using a defense," he realized. "They're using an attack that happens to work as a defense. We've never seen anything like this." The news of Mars' colony's successful defense spread through human space faster than light travel. Every colony, every ship, every outpost suddenly knew that the aliens could be hurt. The impossible had become possible. Captain Sullivan received the news aboard the Defiance as his small fleet prepared to leave Earth's orbital shipyards. His ships were a mixed group of whatever humanity could put together quickly. Mining vessels, with missile pods welded to their hulls. Research ships carrying experimental weapons. Even some luxury cruise liners that had been converted into troop transports. "If a bunch of miners can hurt these things, maybe we have a chance after all," his first officer, Sarah Park, said as she reviewed the tactical reports from Mars. Sullivan nodded, but he was thinking about bigger problems. The alien ships near Earth were much larger than the ones that had attacked Mars, and there were more of them. "Set course for Luna," he ordered. "If they want Earth, they'll have to go through our moon base first." The battle for Luna began 3 hours later. 5 massive alien ships approached the moon's far side, where humanity's main military base was hidden in an ancient crater. The base had been built to coordinate Earth's space defense, but now it would become the first real test of human military technology against alien weapons. The hegemony ships came in fast, expecting to destroy the base with a single coordinated strike, but they had never fought humans before. They didn't understand how quickly humans could adapt. The moon base didn't have mining lasers. Instead, it had something else that the aliens weren't prepared for. The low gravity of Luna allowed humans to do things that would be impossible on Earth. Captain Maria Santos commanded the base's fighter squadron. Her ships were small and fast, built for quick strikes rather than long battles. As the alien ships approached, she led her fighters up from the moon's surface at full acceleration. "Remember the plan," she told her pilots. "Use the gravity well. Don't try to match their firepower. Use our speed." The human fighters swung around the moon, using its gravity to build up impossible velocity. They came at the alien ships from angles that no other species would attempt. The low gravity let them pull maneuvers that would crush pilots from high-gravity worlds. Santos led the first attack run herself. Her fighter screamed past the lead alien ship at nearly 10% of light speed, firing every weapon she had. The aliens tried to track her, but their targeting systems couldn't keep up with the erratic human flight patterns. "They're too slow," one of her pilots shouted over the radio. "Their guns can't turn fast enough." The human fighters swarmed around the alien ships like angry bees. They couldn't do much damage with their small weapons, but they didn't need to. They just needed to keep the aliens distracted while the real attack began. Captain Sullivan's fleet came in from the dark side of the moon, using the ancient craters as cover. His ships were larger and carried heavier weapons, but they were still no match for alien technology in a straight fight. So they didn't fight straight. The Defiance and her sister ships used the moon's terrain like hills in an ancient battle. They popped up from behind crater rims, fired everything they had, then ducked back into cover before the aliens could return fire. It was guerrilla warfare in space, and the humans were very good at it. But the real surprise came from Earth itself. Dr. Kenji Nakamura had been working frantically in his Antarctic laboratory since the ultimatum began. The physicist had been studying exotic matter samples that had been found in deep ice cores. The material was similar to what powered the alien ships, but it had been on Earth for millions of years. "We're not their first target," Nakamura told Admiral Chun over a secure video link. "This stuff has been here since before humans existed. They've done this before, but Nakamura had also made another discovery. The exotic matter could be destabilized in a way that created massive energy releases. He had built a prototype weapon that could theoretically damage alien hulls. The weapon was mounted on a cargo ship called the Heavy Lifter. Captain Rodriguez, the same man who had helped defend Mars Colony, volunteered to pilot the ship in its first combat test. "One shot," Rodriguez said as he approached the alien fleet. "That's all we get. Let's make it count." The exotic matter. Torpedo struck the largest alien ship just as it was preparing to bombard Luna Base. The explosion was unlike anything humans had ever created. It tore through the alien ship's shields and hull like they were made of paper. The hegemony vessel broke apart in a brilliant flash of light. Debris rained down on the moon's surface as the other alien ships retreated in apparent shock. But the victory came at a cost. The Heavy Lifter had been destroyed in the explosion. Rodriguez and his crew were gone. The exotic matter weapon had worked, but it was clearly too dangerous to use near-friendly forces. Executor Vex Thalen watched his forces retreat from Luna with something he hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. These humans fought in ways that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They used their own terrain as weapons. They turned defensive positions into traps. They coordinated their attacks using music and poetry that his codebreakers couldn't understand. And now they had weapons that could actually destroy hegemony ships. "Request immediate reinforcements," he transmitted to the Hegemony Council. "The humans are not behaving like any species in our databases. They seem to enjoy fighting against impossible odds." He paused, watching human ships celebrate their victory around Luna. "Also request permission to use planetary bombardment weapons. Standard tactics are proving ineffective." As both sides prepared for the next battle, something had changed in the balance of power. The humans were still vastly outnumbered and outgunned, but they had proven something important to themselves and to their enemies. They could win. 6 months had passed since the first shots were fired at Mars Colony. Earth looked different now. The blue marble that had once been a peaceful world was covered in construction sites and weapons factories. Every major city had anti-ship batteries pointed at the sky. The orbital shipyards worked day and night, turning out warships as fast as human hands could build them. Admiral Chun stood on the observation deck of the new command station that orbited Earth. Through the reinforced windows, she could see dozens of ships being fitted with the latest weapons. The exotic matter torpedoes that Dr. Nakamura had developed were now being mass-produced in hidden facilities across the solar system. "Status report," she said to her aide, Lieutenant Commander Park, who had been promoted after Captain Sullivan recommended her for command training. "The Ghost Fleet is ready for Operation Phantom Strike," Park reported. "Commander Rebecca Park has 20 modified ships equipped with the new stealth systems. They're invisible to hegemony sensors as long as they keep their power levels low." Chun nodded. Rebecca Park was Sarah's older sister, a brilliant engineer who had volunteered to lead humanity's most dangerous missions. The Ghost Fleet was her idea. Ships that could hide in the asteroid belt and strike without warning. The war had taught humanity many things about their enemies. The hegemony was powerful, but they were also predictable. They followed the same battle patterns that had worked for them for thousands of years. They expected other species to do the same. Humans did not do the same. Commander Rebecca Park floated in the command center of her ship, the Invisible Hand. Around her, the asteroid belt looked empty to normal sensors. But Park knew better. Hidden among the rocks were 19 other human ships, waiting for their moment. Hegemony supply convoy approaching Sector 7, her sensor operator reported quietly. 3 heavy transports with 4 escort ships, Park smiled. The aliens had learned to protect their supply lines after humans had destroyed several unescorted convoys, but they still followed predictable routes between their bases. "All ghost ships, prepare for attack run," she whispered into her communicator. Even though they were in space, her crew had gotten into the habit of speaking quietly during stealth operations. The hegemony convoy moved through the asteroid field at steady speed, confident in their escort's ability to handle any threats. They had no idea that death was hiding in the rocks all around them. "Execute," Park ordered. 20 human ships appeared from nowhere, emerging from behind asteroids with their weapons already firing. The exotic matter torpedoes struck the alien transports before their shields could fully activate. 2 of the massive ships exploded immediately. The third began to drift, its engines dead. The escort ships tried to return fire, but the humans were already gone, disappearing back into the asteroid field like ghosts. The entire attack had lasted less than 3 minutes. "Clean sweep," Park reported to Admiral Chun. "All targets destroyed. No casualties on our side." It was the 15th successful Ghost Fleet operation in 2 months. The hegemony was starting to have serious supply problems, but humans were learning in other ways too. Captain Santos had survived the battle for Luna and was now leading a new kind of mission. Her team had managed to board and capture a damaged hegemony ship. For the first time, humans could study alien technology up close. The captured ship was hidden in a secret facility inside Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt. Dr. Webb worked alongside human engineers to understand how hegemony systems functioned. What they found surprised everyone. "Their technology is incredibly advanced," Webb explained to Admiral Chun during a secure video call. "But it's also incredibly specialized. Each system does one thing perfectly, but it can't adapt to new situations." The chief engineer, a woman named Lisa Kim, held up a piece of alien equipment. "Look at this power conduit. It's designed to handle exactly the amount of energy their weapons produce. Not more, not less. If you try to overload it, the whole system shuts down to prevent damage." "What are you saying?" Chun asked. "I'm saying they built their ships to be perfect," Kim replied. "But perfection means they can't change. Our ships break down all the time, so we've gotten good at fixing them and modifying them. Their ships never break down, so they never learned how to adapt. This discovery led to new human tactics. Instead of trying to match alien firepower, human ships began using weapons designed to overload hegemony systems. Mining charges that produced exactly the wrong kind of energy signature. Electromagnetic pulses that confused alien sensors. Even simple projectiles that alien point defense systems weren't programmed to handle. The war was changing the humans. 2. Captain Sullivan had been promoted to admiral and was now in charge of the main battle fleet. His ships were a strange mix of military vessels and converted civilian craft, but they fought with a coordination that impressed even their enemies. Sullivan's flagship was still called the Defiance, but it was the 3rd ship to carry that name. The first had been destroyed in a desperate rearguard action near Jupiter. The second had been sacrificed to cover the evacuation of Europa Base. But each new Defiance was better than the last, incorporating lessons learned from every battle. Aliens are getting frustrated," Sullivan reported during a strategy meeting with Chun and the other human commanders. "They keep sending larger fleets, but they're still using the same tactics. They haven't adapted to the way we fight." Dr. Nakamura had news that was even more encouraging. His research into exotic matter had revealed something amazing about Earth itself. The exotic matter in our ice cores isn't just similar to what the hegemony uses, he explained to the assembled commanders. "It's exactly the same, but it's been here for millions of years, long before humans existed." Admiral Chun leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "It means Earth has been a battleground before," Nakamura said. Some other species fought the hegemony, here and lost, but they left us a gift. The exotic matter in our planet's crust is enough to power our weapons for centuries. The implications were staggering. Not only could humans continue to fight, but they could escalate the conflict far. Beyond what the hegemony expected, Executor Vex Thalen was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. The request for reinforcements had been approved, and a full hegemony battle fleet was on its way to the Sol system. But every day brought new reports of human victories that should have been impossible. They destroyed another supply convoy. His tactical officer reported. The Ghost fleet struck near Titan and vanished before our patrol ships could respond. Vex Thalen studied the tactical displays. Red marks showed the locations of hegemony losses over the past 6 months. There were too many red marks. How many ships have we lost? He asked quietly. 47 combat vessels and 93 support ships, came the reply. The humans have lost roughly the same number, but they're building new ones faster than we can destroy them. That was the real problem, Vex Thalen realized. The hegemony had assumed that a primitive species would have limited industrial capacity. But humans had turned their entire civilization into a war machine. Every factory, every shipyard, every resource extraction operation was now focused on fighting the hegemony, and they were getting better at it. The breakthrough moment came when human forces captured an intact hegemony warship. The alien crew had abandoned the vessel when its life support failed, never imagining that humans could survive in the toxic atmosphere long enough to take control. Captain Rodriguez, who had volunteered for the dangerous boarding mission, found himself in command of technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans had built. But more importantly, he found the ship's navigation computer. Admiral Chun, you need to see this, Rodriguez transmitted from the captured ship. These coordinates show every hegemony base in this part of the galaxy. We know where they're coming from. The captured data revealed something that changed everything. The hegemony had 3 major staging areas within 50 light-years of Earth, supply depots, repair facilities, and command centers that supported their invasion fleet. If we could hit those bases, Admiral Sullivan said during the emergency strategy meeting, we could cut off their supply lines completely. It would be a one-way mission, Chun pointed out. Our ships don't have faster-than-light travel. Any attack force we send would be trapped in enemy territory. There was silence in the meeting room as everyone considered the implications. Then, Commander Rebecca Park spoke up from her position with the Ghost Fleet. I'll go, she said simply. Give me the fastest ships we have and enough exotic matter weapons to level a small moon. My people and I will make sure the hegemony remembers this war. The plan that emerged was typically human in its audacity. A strike force of modified ships would use captured hegemony navigation data to reach the alien bases. They would destroy as much as possible before the enemy could respond. The mission was codenamed Operation Longshot Dot as the human strike force prepared for its journey into enemy territory. Both sides knew that the war was reaching a turning point. The hegemony reinforcements would arrive soon, bringing enough firepower to overwhelm Earth's defenses. But the humans had one last card to play. Dr. Nakamura had been working on something new in his Antarctic laboratory. A weapon that could use Earth's exotic matter deposits to create an energy release unlike anything ever seen. It was dangerous, potentially catastrophic, but it might be humanity's only chance. If this works, Nakamura told Admiral Chun as they reviewed the final calculations, it will change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. And if it doesn't work? Chun asked. Nakamura looked out at the stars through his laboratory window. Then we'll go down fighting, just like humans always have. The final battle was coming, and humanity was ready. The hegemony reinforcements arrived on a Tuesday morning, just like the first message had come almost a year ago. Admiral Chun watched from the command station as massive alien ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. There were hundreds of them, each one larger than anything humanity had faced before. "My God," Lieutenant Commander Park whispered as she counted the enemy fleet. "There are enough ships out there to glass every planet in the system." Chun nodded grimly. The final battle was here, and humanity was outnumbered 100-1. But they had prepared for this moment. Operation Longshot had launched 3 weeks ago, and Commander Rebecca Park's strike force was already deep in enemy territory. Dr. Nakamura's solar weapon was ready, hidden in research stations positioned throughout the inner solar system. And every human ship, every weapon, every brave soul willing to fight was gathered around Earth for the battle that would decide everything. Admiral Sullivan's fleet formed the first line of defense at the orbit of Pluto. His ships looked tiny compared to the approaching alien armada, but they carried the hopes of an entire species. The Defiance 4 led the formation, its hull scarred from a dozen battles, but still flying. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan," his voice carried across the human fleet. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of every species in the galaxy to choose their own path. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember who we are." The human ships began to move, not in the tight formations that military doctrine demanded, but in the loose, improvised patterns that had served them so well. Mining ships flew alongside military vessels. Converted passenger liners carried exotic matter torpedoes. Even some luxury yachts had been fitted with weapons and joined the fight. Executor Vex Thalon commanded the hegemony fleet from his massive flagship. The crystalline being had learned to respect human tactics over the past year, but he was confident that sheer numbers would win this final battle. No species could stand against the full might of the hegemony war machine. "Begin the advance," he ordered. "All ships maintain formation. Destroy any human vessel that approaches within weapons range." But the humans didn't approach within normal weapons range. Instead, they did something that no other species had ever attempted in the history of galactic warfare. They began to sing. The music started with Admiral Sullivan's ship and spread through the entire human fleet. Old songs from Earth, new compositions written during the war, even children's lullabies that colonists sang to their kids. The humans broadcast their music on every frequency, turning the cold vacuum of space into a concert hall. "What are they doing?" Vex Thalon's tactical officer asked in confusion. "Are they trying to communicate?" Vex Thalon studied the human formations as they danced through space to the rhythm of their music. He was beginning to understand something that chilled him. "They're not trying to communicate," he said slowly. "They're celebrating." The first clash came near Neptune, where Captain Santos led a squadron of fast attack ships against the hegemony vanguard. Her fighters moved like musical notes made real, weaving between the massive alien vessels with impossible grace. They couldn't do much damage to the heavy ships, but that wasn't their purpose. "Remember the plan?" Santos told her pilots as they dove toward the enemy formation. "We're not here to win. We're here to buy time." The human fighters swarmed around the alien ships like angry bees, drawing their fire and forcing them to break formation. Some of the fighters were destroyed, their pilots dying with songs on their lips, but they succeeded in their mission. The hegemony advance slowed as the massive ships tried to deal with the small, fast human craft, while the battle raged in the Asik. Outer System, Dr. Nakamura made final preparations for the solar weapon in his Antarctic laboratory. The exotic matter resonators were in position throughout the inner solar system, hidden inside asteroids and space stations. When activated, they would focus the sun's own energy into a weapon that could destroy entire fleets. "The targeting calculations are complete," Nakamura reported to Admiral Chun. But we need the hegemony fleet to be in exactly the right position when we fire. If they're too spread out, the weapon won't be effective. Chun studied the tactical displays showing the advancing alien fleet. How long do we have? The resonators need 6 hours to charge, Nakamura replied. And the fleet needs to be between Mars and Earth for maximum effect. 6 hours. Chun looked at the estimated arrival time of the hegemony fleet. It would be close. Very close. The battle moved inward as human forces conducted fighting retreats from Uranus to Saturn to Jupiter. Each engagement was designed to slow the alien advance while positioning their ships exactly where they needed to be. Admiral Sullivan's fleet took terrible losses, but they held to the plan dot at Jupiter. Captain Rodriguez made the ultimate sacrifice. His ship, loaded with exotic matter explosives, rammed the largest hegemony vessel just as it was entering the asteroid belt. The explosion lit up the gas giant's moons and destroyed 3 alien ships, but Rodriguez and his crew were gone. He bought us another hour, Sullivan reported grimly, as his remaining ships fell back toward Mars. But we're running out of time and ships. Meanwhile, far from the solar system, Commander Rebecca Park's strike force was wreaking havoc on hegemony supply bases. Her 20 ships had reached the alien staging areas using captured navigation data and were systematically destroying everything they could find. Target the fuel depots first, Park ordered as her ships attacked the main supply base. Without fuel, their reinforcements can't get back to Earth. The exotic matter torpedoes tore through the alien facilities like paper. Massive explosions lit up the alien world as centuries of accumulated supplies went up in flames. The hegemony garrison fought back desperately, but they had never faced anything like human fury unleashed. Rebecca to Earth, Park transmitted, knowing the message would take years to reach home. Mission accomplished. We've destroyed 3 major bases and damaged 5 others. The hegemony won't be able to support large fleets in this region for decades. Her ships were damaged and running, low on ammunition, but they had done their job. The hegemony war machine had been crippled just when they needed it most. Back in the solar system, the final phase of the battle was beginning. The alien fleet had been drawn into the space between Mars and Earth, exactly where Dr. Nakamura needed them. But the cost had been enormous. Most of the human fleet was gone, destroyed in the fighting retreats that had brought the enemy into position. Admiral Sullivan's Defiance 4 was badly damaged, its hull breached in a dozen places. But he and his surviving crew refused to abandon their posts. All remaining ships fall back to Earth orbit, he ordered. This is where we make our stand. Executor Vex Thalen watched the last human ships retreat toward their home world. The battle had been harder than expected, but victory was finally within reach. The primitive species that had defied the hegemony for so long would soon be extinct. Prepare for planetary bombardment, he ordered. Target all major cities and military installations. But as the hegemony fleet moved into bombardment formation, something began to happen that none of them understood. The sun itself started to change. Dr. Nakamura activated the solar weapon from his laboratory, sending signals to the exotic matter resonators hidden throughout the solar system. The ancient alien technology that had been buried in Earth's ice for millions of years responded to his commands. Solar plasma began to move in ways that violated every law of physics the hegemony understood. Massive jets of superheated gas erupted from the sun's surface, guided by exotic matter fields toward the alien fleet. What is happening? Vex Thailand demanded as his sensors detected the approaching plasma wave. Admiral Chun answered him from Earth's command station, her voice carrying across the battlefield on every frequency. You came here to destroy us because we wouldn't kneel, she said, but you never understood what you were really fighting. You see ships and weapons. We see our children's future. The directed solar plasma struck the hegemony fleet with the fury of a star. Ships that had survived for millennia were vaporized in seconds. The alien formation scattered as captains tried desperately to escape the stellar fire, but the victory came at a terrible price. The energy release destabilized weather patterns across the inner solar system. Mars' colony was evacuated as massive storms swept across the red planet. Earth itself shook as tidal forces from the solar weapon affected the planet's core. Executor. Vexthalen's flagship was one of the few that survived the solar strike, but it was crippled and drifting toward Earth's gravity well. As his ship began to break apart, the crystalline being opened one final transmission to the humans. "I have served the hegemony for 800 years, he said, his voice carrying strange new harmonics. I have overseen the conquest of dozens of species, but I have never encountered warriors like you." Admiral Chun listened from her command station as rescue ships searched for survivors among the debris fields. "You fight without logic," Vexthalen continued as his ship fell toward Earth. "Your tactics violate every principle of civilized warfare. You turn your own star into a weapon and smile while you prepare to die." He paused, and when he spoke again, there was something that might have been admiration in his alien voice. "The Hegemony Council will hear of this battle. Not of your defiance, for many species have been defiant. They will hear of your courage. Of a species that makes music while they fight and finds joy in impossible odds." His transmission ended as his ship burned up in Earth's atmosphere, a falling star that marked the end of the invasion. The war was over, but the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not just survived. They had shown every species in the galaxy that the hegemony could be defeated. Across 1,000 worlds, other subjugated peoples began to remember what freedom meant. Earth's children would inherit the stars after all,